The Great Republic is assuredly the land of liberty. It is assuredly the land neither of equality nor of fraternity, those two Latin chimeras which the laws of progress do not recognize. In no country on the globe has natural selection made its iron arm more rudely felt. It is unpitying, but it is precisely because it ignores pity that the race it has contributed to form retains its power and energy. There is no room for the weak, the mediocre, the incapable on the soil of the United States. By the mere fact that they are inferior, isolated individuals or entire races are destined to perish. The red-skinned Indians, because useless, have been shot down or condemned to die of hunger. The Chinese workmen, whose labor constitutes a vexatious source of competition, will soon undergo a similar fate. The law decreeing their total expulsion has not been carried out because of the enormous expenses its application would entail. Footnote: the 53rd Congress only adjourned the execution of the Gary Law, Chinese Exclusion Act, because it found that to convey 100,000 Chinamen back to their country would involve an expenditure of 30 millions of francs, whereas the sum voted for the expulsion of the Chinese workmen was only 100,000 francs. End of footnote. Its place will doubtless soon be taken by a methodical destruction, already begun in several mining districts. Other laws have recently been voted, forbidding pauper emigrants to land on American territory. As to the Negroes who served as the pretext for the War of Succession, a war between those who possessed slaves and those who, being unable to possess them, did not wish to allow others to own them, they are almost tolerated because they fill none but subordinate positions which no American citizen would consent to accept. Theoretically, they have rights. Practically, they are treated like semi-useful animals who are got rid of as soon as they become dangerous. The summary proceedings of lynch law are universally recognized to meet their case. At their first crime of any gravity, they are shot or hanged. Statistics which only include a portion of these executions give over 1,000 for the last 7 years. These are doubtless the gloomy sides of the picture. It is brilliant enough to support them. If it were required to define in a word the difference between continental Europe and the United States, it might be said that the first represents the maximum of what can result from official regulation replacing individual initiative. The second, the maximum of what can be effected by individual initiative entirely freed from all official regulation. These fundamental differences are exclusively the consequences of character. It is not on the soil of the rude republic that European socialism has a chance of implanting itself. The ultimate expression of state tyranny, it can only prosper among old races, subjected for centuries to a regime which has deprived them of all capacity for self-government. Footnote: the America I have just described is the America of yesterday and today, but it doubtless will not be that of tomorrow. We shall see in a forthcoming chapter that the country is threatened, in consequence of its recent invasion, by an immense number of inferior and unassimilable elements, by a gigantic civil war, which may be followed by its division into several independent states, always fighting amongst themselves as are those of Europe. End of footnote. We have just seen what has been accomplished in one portion of America by a race possessing a mental constitution of which the dominant features are perseverance, energy, and strength of will. It remains for us to show what has become of an almost similar country in the hands of another race, which, though highly intelligent, possesses none of the qualities of character whose effects I have just noted. South America, as regards its natural productions, is one of the richest countries of the globe. Twice as large as Europe and 10 times less inhabited, there is no lack of land which is, so to speak, at the disposition of everybody. The dominant population, which is of Spanish origin, is divided into numerous republics. The republics of Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Peru, etc., all of them have adopted the political constitution of the United States and live in consequence under identical laws. And yet, by the mere fact that the race is different and lacks the fundamental qualities possessed by the people of the United States, all these republics, without a single exception, are perpetually a prey to the most sanguinary anarchy, and in spite of the astonishing richness of their soil, they are victims one after the other of every sort of political and economic disaster, of bankruptcy and despotism. To appreciate the lengths reached by the decadence of the Spanish American republics, the remarkable and impartial work on the subject of child must be read. The causes of this decadence lie entirely in the mental constitution of a race possessing neither energy, strength of will, nor morality. The absence of morality, in particular, surpasses all we know that is worst in Europe. Citing one of the most important towns, Buenos Aires, the author declares it to be uninhabitable by anybody of any delicacy of conscience or morality. In reference to one of the least degraded of the republics, the Argentine Republic, the same writer adds, quote, "If this republic be studied from the commercial point of view, one is dumbfounded by the blatant immorality that is to be met with in every direction." Unquote. As to the institutions, there is no better example of how wholly they are the offspring of the race, and of the impossibility of transplanting them from one people to another. It was of great interest to know what would happen to the very liberal institutions of the United States after their introduction among an inferior race. Quote, "These countries," unquote, M. Child informs us of the various Spanish-American republics, quote, "are under the ferule of presidents who exercised an autocracy not less absolute than that of the Tsar of all the Russias. More absolute indeed, for they have nothing to fear from the importunities and the influence of European censure. The government officials are solely recruited from amongst their creatures. The citizens vote as they choose, but no account is paid to their votes. The Argentine Republic is a republic in name only. In reality, it is an oligarchy in the hands of persons who make a commerce of politics." Unquote. Only one country, Brazil, had to some extent escaped this decadence, thanks to a monarchical regime which kept the central authority from being the object of individual rivalries. The constitution too liberal for races without energy and without will has ended by succumbing. The result is that the country is a prey to utter anarchy. In the lapse of a few years, the dilapidation of the public finances by those in power has been such that the taxes have had to be increased by over 60%. Naturally, it is not in politics only that the decadence is manifest of the Latin race by which South America is peopled, but in all the other elements of civilization as well. Left to themselves, these hapless republicans would revert to pure barbarism. All their industry and commerce is in the hands of foreigners, of Englishmen, Americans, and Germans. Valparaiso has become an English city, and nothing would remain of Chile if the foreign element were to disappear. It is thanks to the foreigner that these countries still retain their external varnish of civilization that still deceives Europe. The Argentine Republic counts 4 millions of whites of Spanish origin. I doubt whether a single white man, apart from foreigners, could be cited at the head of an important industry. This terrible decadence of the Latin race, left to itself, compared with the prosperity of the English race in a neighboring country, is one of the most somber, the saddest, and at the same time, the most instructive experiences that can be cited in support of the psychological laws that I have enunciated.